Today in the Morning Edition, protesters across the nation took to the streets, including right here in Alaska, to oppose the policies of President Trump. What exactly they're fighting for.
Plus, what's next for schools, budget shortfalls, tough choices, and the future of education. Hear what ASD's superintendent says about what's ahead.
Will New Orleans be ready for the Super Bowl?
New Orleans will be ready for the Super Bowl, and the world's going to have to be ready for New Orleans.
Well, Super Bowl week is kicking off with a dazzling light show, a second-line parade, and that classic New Orleans spirit. See how the Big Easy is putting its own spin on the Super Bowl celebration as the Morning Edition starts now. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I tell you, it's going to be a party in NOLA.
There's no party like a NOLA party.
I know, right? All right.
Food, oh my gosh, everything.
Yeah, anybody who's visiting there for the first time, they're in for a treat.
King Cake season too.
It is. It's Mardi Gras season and the
everything.
Super Bowl. It's just like a huge party.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Probably a lot nicer weather as well. Here
probably.
we are continuing to hold on to that ridge that's leading to those cool mornings. Plenty of sunshine sticking around a good portion of the state. And we are going to continue to see those temperatures slowly warm. Beautiful view of the moon this morning. We are expected to see those temperatures steadily climb back through the afternoon hours into the teens and 20s for inland areas. 11 degrees is where we're currently sitting at, with winds remaining on the calmer side. Now, for most of this week, we were talking about the return to some colder conditions along the slope out towards the northwest Arctic borough. That is what we're seeing this morning. 16 below in Kotzebue, 21 below in Dead Horse. We're going to continue to see that frontal boundary that's driving in those colder conditions. That will gradually pull off towards the southeast, impacting the interior through the overnight hours on into Friday, and that will lead to some incoming snow showers as well. That ridge of high pressure still with us. We're expected to see fairly quiet conditions for a good portion of the state. However, notice this snow that we're seeing out towards Norton Sound, southern parts of the Seward Peninsula. We're going to see that steadily build inland through the remainder of today, and that's going to move into the interior through the overnight hours on into your Friday, with the heaviest snowfall expected late tonight into your Friday morning. Now, for the first half of the day, we'll largely stay dry, but we could see a few light snow showers in the forecast. Here across South Central, as you get out on the roadways and get out the door this morning, just grab that jacket. Temperatures not too terribly cold. We're sitting in the single digits and the teens outside of the Copper River Basin. We're just seeing those sub-zero values, and we'll warm back into the teens and 20s with plenty of sunshine this afternoon. Coastal regions, once again, warming into the 30s. Now, coming up on my full forecast, we'll be talking about this blocking pattern remaining, stormy weather over the Aleutians, and, of course, that colder weather to the north and that 7-day forecast. I'll have those details coming up.
New this morning, a late-night apartment fire sent multiple crews rushing to 30th Avenue and Arctic Boulevard in Midtown. Now, details are still coming in, but we do know the blaze was confined to just one building. And while 30th Avenue was temporarily closed, it did reopen around midnight.
No injuries have been reported, and the cause remains unclear. We reached out to the Anchorage Fire Department for more information, but have not yet heard back.
We had received quite a few calls from parents that are really scared and nervous for various reasons.
With school budgets stretched thin, tough decisions are being made in Anchorage and Fairbanks and across the state, and school closures are on the table. District leaders say they've been backed into a corner, forced to act fast when long-term planning could have made a difference.
And beyond the budget crisis, a new concern: how increased immigration enforcement could impact students in the classroom.
In this morning's top story, it seems and all too familiar in recent years, once again, education funding for Alaska's schools is a concern.
The Anchorage School District is grappling with a massive budget deficit, as are districts across the state, and that means cuts from staffing to programs. Nothing is off the table. Let's take a quick look at some numbers. Of course, Fairbanks has a $16 million shortfall, and here in Anchorage, officials are working to close a $100 million gap.
The district says it's doing everything possible to protect teaching positions and classroom funding, but without additional state support, hard choices are inevitable. We begin in Anchorage with Joe Allgood.
How do you close a $100 million gap in a school district budget? That's exactly the question that ASD staff are trying to answer. Unfortunately, that means cuts to staff and programs. And here's why some of those proposed cuts have been made. With so much potentially on the chopping block, students, families, teachers, staff, and the entire Anchorage School District are likely to be affected by the budget cuts proposed for the next school year. The ASD superintendent says they've aimed to preserve as many jobs as possible and maintain funding for direct instruction. But the challenge has been stretching per student state funding.
What we're asking for is just a reliable, sensible solution. School districts, I can assure you, are not asking for Ferrari school buses. All we're asking for is to have the ability to plan for our budget in January so we can hire the right number of teachers and nurses and counselors for our kids. But we can't do that, and that's why the situation that we're in is so dire.
From high school athletes in hockey, swim and dive, or gymnastics, to elementary students in the Ignite Gifted Learners program, or even students in special education or at the school for the deaf and hard of hearing. It's not just students who are affected either. Much of the proposed budget cuts come in the form of attrition, hundreds of full-time jobs potentially eliminated, from library assistants to school counselors, and of course, teachers. Superintendent Bryantt says the root cause of budget cuts comes from the fact that state funding for K-12 schools has not adjusted for inflation, leaving districts to scramble for funds.
In fact, it looks like every single state agency has gotten an increase in funding, except for K-12 school districts. Even the Department of Education, it seems, got a 24% bump since 2017. It's very curious that the prisons got a 52% increase and school districts are minus 5.8.
Now, currently there is legislation in Juneau to potentially increase funding for K-12 schools. You can find more information about that on our website. Joe Allgood, Alaska's news source.
Those budget concerns mean the future of school sports in Anchorage is on the line. Under the current budget proposal, all middle school sports would be eliminated, and high school hockey, swimming, diving, and gymnastics could be next.
We spoke with Brian Gross, director of the Anchorage Hockey Association, which stepped in to save high school girls hockey a decade ago when it lost funding. He says hockey is an expensive sport, with ice time alone costing more than $300 an hour. ASD Superintendent Jharrett Bryantt says that high cost is a major factor in why hockey is among the first sports targeted for elimination.
But we do have to grapple with this reality that there's been a lack of political will to increase funding. And unfortunately, those sports that have the highest cost per student are the ones that we target, just because we're trying to ensure we can offer sports to as many students as possible.
The Anchorage Hockey Association says they currently have no plans to take on boys hockey if the program ends up being cut, but in the past they've seen a desire for sports to continue in other ways, even if funding from schools isn't available. And moving into the interior, huge changes are coming for hundreds of families. The Education Board voted Tuesday to close 3 elementary schools, Pearl Creek, Midnight Sun, and Two Rivers, to address a $16 million deficit. Leaders call it a tough decision, but say it will benefit students district-wide. Along with outsourcing custodial services, the move is expected to save $10 million for the Fairbanks North Starborough School District. And in Juneau today, Representative Maxine Dibert chairs the Tribal Affairs Special Committee meeting in just a few hours here at 8 a.m. The meeting includes presentations about state tribal education. At least 7 Native communities will be on hand. Also today, there's meetings on Alaskan fisheries, including topics like the current fish and game budget and licensing. You can watch most of these meetings on the Alaska State Legislature website. Meanwhile, Governor Mike Dunleavy is pushing to change Alaska's recording laws. Right now, the state allows one-party consent, meaning only one person in a conversation needs to agree to recording. Under the proposed bill, SB 85, all parties would have to consent except for police officers, who could still record public interactions without permission.
Less than 48 hours after filing a lawsuit to shut down a new native village of Eklutna gaming hall, Attorney General Treg Taylor is now telling Alaska's news source the state feels the project should have never been approved. The state claims the National Indian Gaming Commission lacked authority to approve the gaming hall and is suing the commission, the U.S. Interior Department, and the native village of Eklutna. The Attorney General argues federal officials violated the Alaska Native Allotments Act.
Now we're in a position where the state has to do what's in the best interest of the state and the people of Alaska, which is to maintain primary jurisdiction.
Attorney General says the state supports economic development on tribal lands, but stands by the lawsuit. Village President Aaron Leggett argues the legal battle adds financial strain and blocks economic growth. For now, the gaming hall remains open as the case moves to court. Follow our expanded coverage online and on our mobile app.
A former Fairbanks school bus driver is behind bars this morning facing child pornography charges. Scott O'Toole, a temporary driver from Texas, worked in Fairbanks from November to December. Court documents say a USB drive found in his hotel room contained child sexual abuse material, triggering an FBI investigation that linked it to him. The FBI's Anchorage office is asking anyone with information to come forward. Alaska's news source requested comment from the Fairbanks North Starborough School District, but have not yet received a response. Anchorage police have identified 33-year-old Francis Rochon as the man killed in Tuesday's officer-involved shooting, the third such incident this year. Police Chief Sean Case says an officer opened fire after Rochon allegedly ignored commands to drop his weapon in a parking lot along Tudor Road. A witness who knew Rochon called the shooting shocking, saying Rochon had stayed at the Anchorage Gospel Rescue Mission the night before. Police say video footage shows muzzle smoke as Rochon pulled a pistol from his waistband, but it's still unclear if he fired. No officers were injured.
The trial for Jesse Jones, accused of murdering an apartment employee, began Wednesday in Anchorage. Prosecutors say Jones shot and killed Josiah Gerker inside the leasing office of the Alpine Apartments in October 2023. Just hours after receiving notice his lease would not be renewed. A witness testified that Jones was frustrated about having to move and said she hid in her office as he pulled out a gun and fired.
I turned, I can see that he pointed the gun and tried to shoot. The gun jammed, and he continued to take out the clip, put it back in the gun. At that time, I can see Josiah backing up still, and that's when he lets out 5 shots.
An attorney for Jones admits the shooting, but says his client didn't go into the office with the intention of killing someone and shouldn't be charged with first-degree murder.
After the break, a new scholarship program is giving Mat-Su residents a chance to pursue careers in healthcare.
We're helping support the workforce as well as students.
Investing in Alaska's future healthcare heroes, who qualifies and how it could shape up the future.
Growing resistance as President Trump pushes ahead with sweeping changes to the federal government. I'm Jared Hill with the protests from blue states to red and the White House's major deadline for millions of federal workers.
Things still remain fairly quiet across the southern part of the state. We are expected to see some increasing snow showers for the interior. I'll have more on that. First, sunrise, 9:05 in Anchorage, 7:50 in Juneau. Your full forecast is next.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for waking up and joining us here.
Yeah, let's check in with Aaron to see what our forecast is looking like.
Well, more of the same all week long. We've been dealing with that sunshine. Of course, some early morning freezing fog has been with us, and there is that possibility this morning as well. As we went to the last week and a half, we saw those temperatures sitting near record values, mid to upper 40s. That was that warm weather pattern that we did see for a large portion of January. And then as we ushered in February, you can see those temperatures, they really began to bottom out, well below zero for a good portion of South Central when it came to those overnight lows, and then afternoon highs struggled to break out of the single digits. Since then, we began a slow climb back into the teens and the 20s, and that stays with us for the rest of this week. And we're going to be talking about a slow warming into the weekend and next week as well. Still holding on to that ridge pattern. We've got an area of low pressure on both sides of the ridge, and then we've also got a low pressure system out towards the slope that's driving in some of those colder conditions. But this ridge reigning supreme, that's going to lead to more of the same, meaning that we're going to continue to see those daily highs remaining fairly uniform for southern parts of the state. And we're also going to continue to hold on to that stretch of some sunshine. For today, we're going to see those temperatures like we've seen past afternoons. Teens and 20s expected for inland areas of South Central, while coastal regions manage to climb into the 20s and the 30s. And we are going to really begin to tap into some of those warmer conditions as we welcome in next week. Heading out towards western Alaska, we are seeing some light snow showers through Norton Sound and southern parts of the Seward Peninsula. This is going to spread spread eastward throughout the day, and that's all thanks to a frontal system that's driving southeastward through the state. You can see a very quick clipping system when it comes to that snowfall, with the heaviest amount arriving overnight on into your Friday. And we're going to be talking about the potential for anywhere from about 1 to 4 inches of snow accumulation across the interior. You can see through at least the afternoon hours, just north of Fairbanks, we could see upwards of about a trace of an inch. And then we're expected to see the possibility for about 2 to 4 inches in some of these harder hit areas. So where you're seeing these darker blues around surrounding Fairbanks, and then as you head northeast of Fairbanks out towards northeastern parts of the interior, this is where we could see upwards of 4 inches of snow accumulation, and most of that will arrive overnight on into your Friday before tapering off. Cooler weather arrives. You can see overnight lows dropping back well below zero. A single-digit high expected Saturday, and then like we've been dealing with, this oscillation back and forth, we are back in the teens with quiet conditions taking hold through most of next week. Meanwhile, across South Central and the Kenai, you can see sunny and chilly conditions. We've got there's those 30s and 40s as you head from Seward out towards Kodiak. Still holding on to those gap winds from Seward into Prince William Sound. We've got those temperatures sitting in the 30s and the 40s. Valdez, a warm one this morning, waking up with those temperatures sitting at 40 degrees. Temperatures will fall through the day, but those winds keeping temperatures up through the night. But expect a warm day for you with falling temperatures through the remainder of the day. We do have some sunny and cool conditions through the valley, teens and 20s to be expected. So we've been dealing with this each and every day. Starting tomorrow and into the weekend, we really begin to tap into some of those warmer conditions. You can see 23 degrees Saturday, 27 Sunday, warming into the upper 20s as we welcome in next week. We do stay on the dry side inland areas, but as the weekend arrives, coastal regions could see the potential for some light rain showers, if not some wintry mix in the forecast.
All right, thanks, Aaron.
Alaska is facing a critical shortage of healthcare workers, putting an added strain on hospitals and clinics across the state.
In an effort to strengthen Alaska's workforce, the Mat-Su Health Foundation is stepping up to help fill the gap. We take a look in this morning's Health Watch. At Mat-Su Career Tech in Wasilla, it's passing period and time for lunch. But some of these students could be future healthcare workers.
And on the count of 3, I'm going to have you push up. Are ready? 1, 2, 3.
Take 18-year-old Kylie Guerin, for example. She wants to be a pediatric oncologist.
I'm a hands-on learner, so it's pretty easy for me.
18-year-old Kennedy Clark is interested in anesthesiology.
I did CNA here at Tech, and it was an amazing class, and I loved it.
And 17-year-old Grayson McDowell wants to pursue biomedical engineering.
I've been an athlete my whole life, and I've just, whenever I experience an injury or something, I go in to get checked out by doctors. I just found that's something I'm really interested in, and helping people, specifically helping athletes, but helping people in general.
We're going to uncover the arm.
The Mat-Su Health Foundation wants to help students like Kylie, Kennedy, and Grayson pursue their dreams, offering nearly $4.5 million in scholarships to those ready to set foot into the field.
By investing in our residents, helping them pay for college, defer their educational expenses, we're helping support the workforce as well as students. It gives me hope that there are still individuals that are going into the nursing field, knowing that there is such a shortage.
The scholarships are open to Mat-Su residents interested in health or human services. There's no age limitation, so students coming out of high school, continuing education, and even those wanting to make a career change can all apply. But the hope is that people will pursue a healthcare career within the state.
I would be open to going to school somewhere else and then coming back here and working in the healthcare field for a little bit.
As of now, I'm not really sure, but I would love to come back here and bring what I've learned back to Alaska.
But even if they take their skills elsewhere, the most important thing is that they know this opportunity is here, ready to support them on their journey. Again, you do have to be a Mat-Su resident to qualify, and the application process is open through March 15th.
Last year, the Mat-Su Health Foundation granted nearly $3 million in scholarships. Find a link of where to apply in this story on our website.
You've been listening to the Alaska's News Source podcast. Subscribe to have the latest episodes delivered to your library automatically.